What is going on, guys? Today we have a video on the Vaporfly Next 2%. Quite an exciting video today in comparison to my other videos, as I have never managed to get myself a pair of shoes that are this well regarded, particularly when it comes to running. And a lot of you probably know that I'm quite passionate about running. I do a lot of it in my spare time. And I managed to pick these up below their €250 retail price. I managed to get them for about €150. And today I'm going to be reviewing them. So, I have just uploaded a video on the Asics Gel Magic Speed, which are a great little racer if you're on a budget. If you want to get a shoe for fast interval training, or you just want to get a nice pair for racing that's not going to break the bank, then I would recommend that you should check out that review and definitely consider them as an option. So without further ado, we're going to discuss this a little bit more, the next 2%. So the Vaporfly is a series, so this is the second generation in the lineup. They're quite a famous shoe because they did spark a lot of controversy when they did first come out, the first generation specifically. So Nike came out with this marketing campaign, and it said that the Vaporfly is going to increase your marathon time or race time by up to 4%. And that's a pretty bold statement. Like, you kind of, everyone says, oh, this shoe is going to make you faster, or this shoe is lighter, so it's going to make you quicker. And while I do agree with that to an extent, a shoe brand has never really come out with a statement as bold as that before. And the World Athletics Association, who were listening in, they basically decided to launch an investigation into the shoe. As runners were coming through with crazy marathon times while wearing this. Eliud Kipchoge, very well-known Kenyan runner, was wearing these when he set a marathon record. In his recent marathon, when he set a record, he was wearing the sister to the shoe, the Alphafly. But I digress. So they launched an investigation into the shoe, and they did actually find that the shoes did involve an increase in performance, which it's pretty crazy, like quite a significant increase in performance. And rather than banning the shoe, they decided to limit the way the technology could be improved in the future. And it was in relation to this really squishy Zoom X foam. And they basically said, right, so you can use this shoe, but Nike, in future generations, you are not to make this sole any thicker, because it is that good. It is that responsive. So my own experience was with the shoe. When I first got these, when I was getting these on the website, I was a bit skeptical about the colorway, because it's pretty nuts. Like, you've got this black knitted upper with white accents, and then you've got this kind of crazy purple and crimson combination as well. And we've got nice little lace tips and accents throughout there. Probably a little bit too much, but in all honesty, when it comes to running, I feel like you can really wear any kind of shoe you want, and running has really been one of those sports where you can really express your personality and what you truly want to have on your feet, rather than, being afraid of what others are going to think, like when you're wearing trainers out on the street. So I think really with regard to running, the flashier the better, and I do actually love the way these turned out in person. I think they really do look that good. I do love the crimson accents. I'm not a huge fan of the purple colour. I feel like a full crimson outsole or midsole would have looked incredible. But nevertheless, I still think they look great. They look a bit strange on feet if you're trying to wear them casually, but if you, in all honesty, you're not really going to want to wear these casually. You're going to want to save these for the big races, because I've heard from another video that these shoes, they are really at their best in the first 100 kilometers. So that's why a lot of people save these for races, rather than wearing them as their everyday trainer or everyday long distance runner. But so what do you get? So as we were talking about, we get a nice light knitted upper. It's not anything like an Epic React Flyknit. It's what I've reviewed on this channel before, which is quite, I think it's really densely knitted together. Like this knit is quite flimsy, but it does lock your foot surprisingly well at the front of the shoe. And the breathability is quite nice. Like I was quite surprised, like when I put these on, my feet were quite cold, and that hasn't happened to me in a very long time when wearing a pair of shoes. So along with the knitted upper, you get this kind of collar extension piece, which I think is mainly just done for decoration. Nothing too fancy there. And you get this kind of plastic reinforcement near the laces. And with the laces, they are actually quite rough, which I do quite like, because in the past I've had the Zoomfly Kakiso, which has these really weird laces. They're kind of half rough and half smooth, and they just kept coming undone. But so far while wearing these, I've not had these come undone once. And I really like that, because that's the last thing you want to be doing when you're running, is constantly having to stop and untie them or tie them up again, because they've become untied. And I don't know if you can make it out there, but it says also on the upper, engineered to the exact specifications of world-class runners, Nike Running. And I think a lot of that has to do with Eliud Kipchoge. He's an incredible athlete, and I do find myself watching clips of him on YouTube. He's unbelievable. Like the marathon times he does, and he just makes it look so effortless. And a lot of the times he is wearing these shoes, or as I was saying, the sister shoe, the Vaporfly, which is a good bit heavier. Speaking of weight, the weight of these shoes, I actually found these shoes like not to be incredibly light. Like they obviously they are very light, but they're probably not as light as the Magic Speed, which I have just reviewed on this channel. I've posted that. But the weight isn't a huge issue. It's just something to note. It's definitely not as light as the Epic React Flyknit that I reviewed as well. They were just the lightest things I've ever put on my feet. And I think a lot of that has to do with this Zoom X foam midsole, which is, honestly, I've never had anything like it. It's the most responsive midsole I've ever put on my feet. And it just pushes you along. Like the other day I was doing a 2 miler, a quick 2 miler, and I was going to see if I could beat my personal best, which I did end up doing. Not to say that it has anything to do with the shoes. I did a 2 miler in about 10:04. And I found when I was going down the hill, I was like, right, we're going downhill now. I'm going to ease up a little bit. And I just found this thing just pushing me along, like daring me to go faster. And I think that's really where you do notice it, is in the hills. When you're going downhill, like a lot of the time, people will push themselves really hard going up the hills, and then take the time to relax slightly when you're going down the hills, when you're going down a slope. But this thing, I found it was just pushing me on to go down that hill and really attack it. But other than that, would I say I really noticed myself going faster? I probably not. Like, I wouldn't say there was a huge increase in my performance. And I actually, overall, I'd say I probably do prefer the Magic Speed that I reviewed. I think it just suits me a lot better. Like, I'm a huge fan of kind of light and flat racers, racers that have a decent amount of cushioning, but not to this extent. Because one of the issues I had with this shoe was that the midsole was just so thick that my feet were a little bit unstable in them. You really need to tie these tight when you put them on before going in a race. And yeah, so probably not my favorite shoe. I must say I was a little bit disappointed, because I had this preconception in my mind that it was going to make me 10 times faster than, in the Magic Speed. And it just goes to show you how good these kind of budget racers, if you will, are in terms of performance. They're all trying to do a similar thing. But with Nike, I suppose this one has really reinvented the wheel because of the technology, and I suppose you can really respect it. This kind of move away from the lightest and flattest possible racer, and more to how much energy return you can get from a midsole, and how springy it is. And I found it really did feel like I had a pair of sponges on my shoes. The best thing I could describe it as would probably be, the mobile game Subway Surfers, when he puts on the really spongy shoes. It really did feel like that. And it honestly, it didn't feel like the most incredible experience I've ever had on my feet. It wasn't really that pleasant, I suppose. It didn't provide a natural barefoot sensation the way I describe it. I really prefer runners that they make it feel like you've got nothing on your feet and you're running in this barefoot style. And I can respect this. I can definitely respect the direction that they went with, and I can understand why this shoe is so controversial and why why there is a significant increase in performance. I can understand how there would be an increase in performance, but I think it's definitely to the detriment of a natural running style. I felt that my running, the way I wanted to run, it was kind of being changed by the shoe, and that's why, I think honestly, I suppose it's early days. I've only used this shoe about 3 times, but I think I can honestly say I prefer a shoe, like a flatter, a less responsive shoe, a lighter shoe for almost 150 euros below the retail price of these. But nevertheless, we're getting to the end of the review, so we'll move to the sole. You've got some nice little grooves here. They're not. It's not the best grip I've ever seen, and in fact, again, I would actually say that the Magic Speed has better grip, but I suppose it's more of an all rounder, rather than the Magic Speed's more of an all rounder than a racer, an all rounder for kind of moderate training and varying intensities. I found when I was, hiking in Antigua, I could use the Magic Speed like no problem, without slipping. But with these, I'd say you wouldn't want to be hiking in them, and they're not designed for that purpose. They're really, to reiterate, they're really designed for that race day. These are the shoes that you really break out when you want to beat your personal best. Whether that would happen, I suppose we'll have to wait and see. I am looking to enter some races coming up in February, and I'm going to probably test these out in one of the races, and see if I can beat my 5K personal best. And another thing to mention with these, I don't know if this is that much of a significant factor, but a lot of the appeal towards these is about an internal carbon fiber plate that runs across the entirety, inside this Zoom midsole. And that is supposed to give you the ultimate energy return. So the ultimate springiness from when you plant your foot onto the ground. The Magic Speed, as I was mentioning before, it has half a carbon fiber plate, so not a full carbon plate. But I still felt that they did a really good job with the Magic Speed, despite a lot of negative press towards that shoe. But does the carbon fiber plate increase performance? That's something that would probably have to be tested. I didn't notice a difference, to be honest, in having the full carbon fiber plate and half a carbon fiber plate. I really think, to reiterate, that the responsiveness and the squishiness, if you will, comes from this really thick Zoom X foam, which is it is pretty incredible. It has to be said. It's so responsive. It's not overly squishy, but it is reasonably malleable, and it really does absorb a lot of the shock from when you're planting your foot down. But as I said, with the thickness of this sole, there becomes a few structural issues, and that I was talking about how it kind of took away from my natural running style, and that probably has a lot to do with how thick the sole is, how it's going to lead to a bit of stability issues, because I do like that kind of firmer sole, because I feel like my feet they're firmly planted on the ground, and I don't have to worry about stumbling or losing my footing. So with regard to the bottom of the sole, there aren't too much complaints. Like you can use these on road races, even on rainy days, and you won't have too many issues with slipping, and that's all you really need. It's nothing too fancy, but it does get the job done. And internally, another significant feature to point out before we end the video is these kind of nice foam patches, which we have seen from Nike before in football boots. We saw it with the infamous Mercurial Vapor 4 and 3. They were foam inserts that were kind of meant to increase your ankle lockdown. But what really happened was that it just led to a lot of blisters when breaking in the shoe. And I think that this technology has definitely come a long way, because I did notice an improvement in ankle support, and I didn't actually have any issues with breaking this in. I didn't get any blisters. They are extremely comfortable out of the box, and I think that's why a lot of people say that these are for race day, because you can literally just buy a pair of these the day before race day, and then take them out of the box, throw them on you, and you're all set. So I suppose to conclude, there is my feelings on the shoe are probably a little bit mixed. While I can see how these would improve your performance, it's probably just it boils down to personal preference and what you want as a runner. I found that these shoes, as I said, it is early days in testing these, but I found that they just didn't really suit my natural running style, which prefers this kind of stability and neutral ride, rather than kind of being pushed along and then worrying about falling over or stumbling on a rock or something, or things like that. But it is pretty incredible what Nike have managed to achieve with this. Like it is all about the Zoom X midsole. And while the upper is nice, a nice Flyknit upper, it's going to serve you well in wet conditions. The main level of attraction here is that midsole, which provides up to a 4% increase on your personal best. But would I say I prefer it over the Magic Speed? So far, probably not. And the Magic Speed is, as I said, it retails for almost 150 euros less. So, but again, all down to personal preference. But if you really are looking for the softest or spongiest or walking on clouds or running on clouds feeling possible, then this is the shoe for you. If you're not too preoccupied with stability, or you have a neutral and natural running gait, unlike me, then these are probably the way to go. If you're an overpronator, like you pronate a lot, your feet turn in massively, then I wouldn't say that this would be for you. It really is for those neutral runners that that want to win those races. But yeah, I am pretty impressed with the shoe, even though it's not my favorite that I've ever worn. That still goes to the Epic React Flynet. Funny enough, despite no bells and whistles attached to that, it just, when it comes down to it, it's just all about what you like and what suits you. So that's going to conclude today's video. I hope you all enjoyed. I know it's been a while since I've uploaded, but I am looking forward to testing out some new shoes in the future. I suppose an update video on this in a few months wouldn't go amiss. But yeah, so thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.